Hi everybody, this is Hero from the Birds back with another Shadowlands video. In this video we're going to look at 9.2 Survival Hunters, specifically checking out the set bonuses that we are looking forward to alongside the legendaries, and just kind of talk through what we see for Survival Hunter and maybe some things to look forward to. So the 2 set says, when Kill Command resets, it has a 40% chance to make our next Wildfire Bomb incur no cooldown. And so that interacts specifically with Kill Command's tooltip, which says that it has a 25% chance to immediately reset its cooldown whenever you press it. So this has 2 charges for Survival Hunter, and also if we use Coordinated Assault, we have an increased chance, up to 25% increased chance for Kill Command to reset its cooldown. So within Coordinated Assault, basically every other Kill Command button we press will reset Kill Command, and what the 2 piece is saying is, when this occurs, it has a 40% chance to make your next Wildfire Bomb incur no cooldown. Wildfire Bomb is a kind of fairly long CD as far as Hunter buttons are it's about 20 seconds baseline, of course reducible by haste, and it just does a bunch of damage. In single target, it's fairly weak. It doesn't represent that much damage overall. I think something in the range of maybe 10% of your damage overall just with Wildfire Bomb. And then of course if you have the legendary and you go that direction and you take some of the other talents in the tree, it goes up to around 17%, maybe 18% in single target. So Wildfire Bomb isn't bad, it just doesn't represent a significant portion of our single target to date. But if we are getting constant resets of Kill Command, this gives us essentially more Wildfire Bombs over the course of an encounter. It remains to be seen how much of an impact this would have on a single target. In AoE, it seems, guys, like this would be extremely busted. And this might be the challenge that Blizzard will face going forward. Taking all of the legendaries out of the equation, taking Covenants out of the equation, if you have this 2-piece, and really I guess if you have the 4-piece, and you're just using your normal rotation, you will get a lot of procs of Wildfire Bomb. So in AoE, it will do a devastating amount of damage. So that's kind of interesting to look forward to. The 4-piece, your Wildfire Bombs deal 30% additional damage. This bonus is increased to 80% for bombs that are empowered by Mad Bombardier. So this essentially is amplifying the damage that our Wildfire Bombs are going to deal. And then when the reset for Kill Command happens, it amplifies it even further. So there's a baseline position from Blizzard here to make sure that Wildfire Bomb, if you have these 4 sets, is an increased portion of our overall damage, whether it's in single target or AoE. But the nature of this scaling means that it's going to be substantial for AoE and perhaps sort of minor for single target. Now let's talk about some of the ways that we can take a look at this in combination with what we're generally using for legendaries and those kinds of effects already. So if you look at our legendary powers, technically in single target, Pouch is pretty much on par, perhaps a little bit behind Trapping Apparatus, and those are a little bit ahead of Wildfire Cluster Bomb. So if you look in single target encounters like Guardian right now in Mythic, there are representations of Survival Hunters who are using each of these, and they don't have any sort of external buffs like PI, and they're all within range of each other, around the 10k single target DPS mark. I'll show you a chart in a second to break down some of their casts per minute and talk about the implications of that for our 4 set in a second. But having said that, these represent sort of 3 very different approaches to Survival Hunter with different talent setups and different priorities with our button pressing. For example, if we're going with Trapping Apparatus, we definitely want to have Steel Trap, and we're going to be cycling between Steel Trap, Tar Trap, and Frozen Trap as just DPS modifications because of the way that Trapping Apparatus works. Essentially, we'll do sort of 4 casts. Usually it's some combination of Mongoose Bite, Kill Command, Mongoose Bite, Kill Command, back and forth. And then every sort of 5 seconds, we're tossing one of these 3 traps into single target to maintain the focus generation buff. So really quite strong in single target NTA, especially for our Mongoose Bite builds, because we maintain Mongoose stacks across the encounter. Very different, of course, from a WFI build, so Wildfire Infusion alongside Wildfire Cluster, because this is going to make use of guerrilla tactics as well to essentially give us as much damage as possible from the Wildfire Bombs. And this is the build, Wildfire Cluster as a legendary alongside WFI and guerrilla tactics, that seems to be most synergistic with our 2 set and our 4 set, but it remains to be seen whether it will actually be an impactful amount of damage that we are offering our player. Why do I say that? Well, it has to do with sort of the low count of Wildfire Bombs that we end up producing over the course of an encounter. Let me just show you that chart I was referencing a little bit earlier. If you take a look at Survival Hunter cast per minute, and these are just pulled from Mythic Guardian pulls in the latest raid for Shadowlands, and I have each of these legendary choices selected, and what we're looking at essentially is cast per minute that each of these players is producing. Obviously, I'm picking out 3 separate legendary approaches, and there are many, many more players who have used each of these and have slightly different results. So take this with a grain of salt, but these are top level parses, and they represent, I think, probably a fairly reasonable spectrum of what you can expect. Notice, for example, the difference in Mongoose Bite casts, or in the case of the one we're looking at, Raptor Strike casts, of course, and Kill Command casts. So for our Venthyr player with Pouch, you're getting about 93 casts of Mongoose Bite, and notice how many kill shots are going in to the boss because of the procs we're getting from Pouch. For our NTA player, you have more casts of Mongoose Bite overall, so about 40 more Mongoose Bites over the course of the fight. And then notice you have about 27 uses of traps over the course of a single target fight. 9 each of our Frozen Trap, Tar Trap, and Steel Trap. So that's 27 GCDs that are going in just to maintain the focus buff. And then for our Wildfire Cluster, perhaps the most interesting one, in light of the 2-piece and the 4-piece, you can see the breakdown there of our Wildfire Bombs in 3 different parts. And of course, the differences between Kill Command and Raptor Strike, etc., etc. The point is, if you notice at the bottom, there's this a substantial difference in the, I guess, cast per minute that a Wildfire Cluster player is doing. They're about 69.8 casts per minute, which is, I think, about, if I'm reading this correctly, around 15 or 20, close to that, more casts per minute compared to the casts from the other 2 types. So 323 casts total versus 273 and 257. Now, there's other ways to play Wildfire Cluster, so this isn't the only sample to take from. I just give it to you as a basic sense to give this some context for talking about what's going to happen in 9.2. Specifically, the fact that we now have access to both a Covenant Legendary and one of these other choices. And while if you look at some places like Hero Damage, you can see that clearly NTA is really far ahead on the single target charts compared to WC as far as a percentage of overall damage that it's offering the player. That playstyle involves including a number of other utility buffs, specifically the traps that you're using, alongside all of the other buttons you're pressing. So how would NTA fit, that style fit with some other Covenant choice, whether it's Kyrian Necrolord, Venthyr? And then similarly, Pouch seems to be also a fairly high damage. I think it's second if you look at the percentage of overall damage that it's offering Survival Hunters, but it's by a significant margin. If NTA is like 16% or 14%, I think Pouch is around 8 or 10. So not really quite as significant, but it has different priorities. So we're going to be pressing Kill Shot far, far, far more often than in the other 2. Excuse me. We had 6 casts in NTA of Kill Shot. We had 5 That would probably be around 6 for Wildfire Cluster in single target. And we have 28 for Pouch of Razor Fragments, meaning that the Ventier player is devoting quite a substantial number of GCDs to that button. Will that conflict with either an NTA approach where we have to get traps out at a good amount, or given the 4-piece Wildfire Cluster, which is going to not reset, but basically give us often circumstances where we want to be casting our bombs back to back to back. So I put that out here just as a context, as I say, for thinking about one of the problems that Survival Hunter is going to run into if you're playing the 4-piece. You can basically either decide to go with NTA and really treat anything you get from the 2-piece and the 4-piece as a sort of bonus, meaning we don't really care that much. We will, of course, cast the Wildfire Bombs, but we're probably not going to think too much about Wildfire Infusion, maybe a little bit, but we're likely not as worried about playing into that. Maybe we go Bloodseeker. There's a few approaches. Or we lean into Wildfire Cluster very heavily, and we focus as much of our attention on getting kill command resets. Not that we can control it too much, but just paying a lot of attention to trying to get as many Wildfire infusions out. So overall, I think Survival Hunter kind of got shafted. And here's why I say that. If there's a lot of AoE encounters in the new raid, and they're sustained AoE encounters especially, this spec is going to be really, really good. But Survival has to compete with 2 other extremely mobile ranged DPS classes. And both marksmanship and BM hunters have had historically lots of representation in raids because they can often, especially BM, take care of a lot of mechanics. They have an immunity that they can do things with, and there are far fewer melee slots available for hardcore raiding. Certainly Survival Hunter has never really been one of the classes that is brought because generally speaking you want some kind of utility in your melee DPS slot or just gigantic pumper numbers. So this is always going to go down to single target for the choices that the hardcore raiders make. It doesn't mean you can't have fun and play this. I just mean it's kind of sad to see them focus on AoE only because this is just going to complicate your rotation significantly. GCD lock is a problem for many melee classes. Just ask Shaman. But if we have to pair together NTA and casting out lots of traps alongside resets, if we have to go fully into Wildfire Cluster, but then we want to play something like Fragments, we are going to introduce a great deal of pressure for different kinds of buttons to press. Kill command, have to press it, but we're waiting on kill shot, but we're waiting on a kill command. But bombs is coming off, and if we kill command and get a reset, then we have both bomb and kill command to press. Not that this is a bad thing per se, guys, but it's just something to be aware of for the direction the playstyle of this class is going. The 4 set is automatically going to introduce a little bit of button pressure for the GCD, no matter which style we play. But the combination of legendaries that we're going to use is also going to layer on an already complicated rotational plan. Will it be fun? In AoE, guys, in Mythic Plus, this is going to blast. This, if they don't change it, I expect they will, but getting an 80% bonus to a Wild Cluster Bomb with Wildfire Infusions going out, guys, this could be completely bonkers in Mythic Plus pulls. And in fact, they may change it, so it might give a proc of our Wildfire Bombs instead of just being when the next one comes around. But either way, you'll know because you'll get the kill command, it'll probably light up a button, and then you'll have it ready to go for your next explosion. You just do a gigantic pull, Wildfire Bomb's going to do a ton of damage. So for those of you who are interested on the Mythic Plus side, this is going to be amazing alongside Razor Fragments. You will be completely GCD locked. It'll be like kill command into double bombs, into kill shots that spread dots everywhere, and you'll have other things you want to be pressing, but you just don't have time for it. But it will produce a ton of damage, and especially with the burst that's available, given the fact that we can kind of game or guarantee that we get access to kill command resets through coordinated assault, you'll have a ton of fun. But on single target, I feel like survival will feel pressure about which choices it's going to make. And any sort of cleave opportunity, you'll probably see people switch entirely away from an NTA build and try to game the Wildfire 4-piece. But if there's only single target, I still think NTA and kind of ignoring Wildfire Bomb is likely the way to go. Does this change our approach for other covenants? I.e., does Necrolord suddenly become interesting? The answer, I think, is largely no on the single target side. And even though Venthyr is a little bit cramped, I still think it produces more damage opportunities with kill shots spreading dots in multi-target situations. Explosive shot does do a lot of damage, so maybe bag of munitions is fine if you're doing like gigantic fortified pulls for Necrolords. But then you also have the problem of like Night Fae just being really excellent, and I mean Kyrion's no slouch either, but Night Fae just conduits are also just going to be awesome in Mythic Plus. So I really don't think survival's ever going to struggle in Mythic Plus ever again as soon as you get that 4-piece, but the single target might be a little rough. Anyways, more to come. I believe this will get changed. I don't know, but that's a first look at Survival Hunter. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we will catch you guys again next time.